All right, we're going to call the Tuolumne County Transit Agency meeting to order. This would be the opportunity for oral communications to allow the public to speak on any item not on the printed agenda. All right, seeing none, we'll bring it down to the consent calendar. Ooh, this one. Item 2, approval of the February 14, 2018 meeting minutes. Item 3, approval of the February 14, 2018 special meeting minutes. Item 4, approval of the chairman to sign low carbon transit operations program certifications and assurances, authorized agent form, and allocation amounts for weekend and special event transit services. Item 5, review and file a copy of the strategic partnerships transit grant submitted by Amador County Transportation Commission with Tuolumne County Transportation Council as a subrecipient to update the coordinated public transit human services transportation plan for each agency. And item 6, rejection of bids for changeable message sign for State Route 120. Anything to be pulled?
I need to pull item number 2. And hold on one second on item number 5, just a second. 2 and 5, please.
So items 2 and 5 are pulled. Any public comment on 3, 4, and 6? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for
So-
3. Go ahead.
So moved.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, those items are approved.
Okay.
Item 2.
Item number 2 on page 3. The item number 7, it says that Councilmember Williams moved to approve, but there was no second listed.
Oh, okay.
And then item number 5, I don't know if this makes any difference, but on page 1, where it says Darren Drosy instead of Darren Grossi, I don't know if that makes a difference, but it might in the future.
And the email addresses need to be
Yeah.
corrected.
Oh, okay,
For Darren and Alex.
okay.
Would you like us to bring that back next month? Corrected?
Can we count on you to make those corrections?
You can certainly count on us to make those if you'd like to.
Let's go that way.
Then we'll
Okay.
just do that.
All right.
So moved with the corrections.
Second.
So that's item 5?
2 and
two.
5.
2 and 5. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, those items are approved. Excuse me. Item 7, presentation of the mid-year transit report.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, did you pull item 5?
Yeah, but then we just approved it.
Okay.
With-
All right.
With
you make
corrections.
Just email, sorry, I was taking notes, I missed that. All right, item 7, presentation of mid-year transit report. I'm going to have Tyler Somerset review the report.
All right. Tyler Somerset, Transportation Planner for your board. This year's report is a little bit of a mixed bag here. As you'll see, during the reporting period, we had 4 months under the old schedule, and we had 2 months under the new schedule. And there's some substantial changes between the two. And so you'll notice, that the report shows that conflict between the two schedules a bit. We still looked at all the same criteria as far as monitoring and evaluating the efficiency of the system, passengers per vehicle service hour, passengers per vehicle service mile, operating costs per passenger trip, operating cost per vehicle service hour and fare box recovery ratio, but you've got two, you got apples and oranges in there a little bit. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. As you know, we started operating the new schedules with the new transit center in November on the 1st. So we've got 2 full months of that schedule. And you'll see as you look through the report that the numbers as of mid-year are kind of tracking somewhat with what we were doing in our previous report. And again, I think when we have a full report with the new schedules, that's when we'll hope to see some of those increases that we've been talking about over the past once we've implemented the new schedules. Our on-time performance, as you can see, dipped a little bit, and that's not uncommon when you've got new schedules and folks are adjusting to those, and our drivers are doing their best to be as flexible as they can and allowing folks to make those adjustments. As you'll see, route by route, we are kind of tracking similarly to what we had been doing before. And again, I think that's primarily because we had 4 months under the old schedules. Route 1 was doing very well at 16.9%. Route 2 had maintained that kind of 6% fare box recovery. 3 dipped a little bit down into the 7s, as did Route 4. And Route 5 had a slight increase from 6% up to 7%. And of course, we eliminated Route 6, and so you don't see that one there any longer. Dial-A-Ride continued to show strong service and service recovery ratios. And one thing you'll notice that's a little different in this report is the combined service section. So we typically look at a combined look at both the Dial-A-Ride and the fixed route services. But you'll see an additional factor that is included this time around, which is according to the Transportation Development Act, you can also include some of your marketing revenues in your fare box recovery ratio. And we have, about a year ago, a little more now, hired on Helen Foraker to do advertising for us. And she sold nearly $100,000 worth of advertising on behalf of Tuolumne County Transit. And of course, we have we share that profit with her. So we use some of those revenues to help supplement the fare box recovery. So when you look at the combined service number, the final number, the one that will go to the auditors at the end of the year, you'll see that we moved from 9.3% in the beginning of the report to 12.1%. And so that's that combined number that includes both Dial-A-Ride, fixed route, recovery ratios, and some of those local revenue sources for the service. The Dodge Ski Bus, unfortunately, during the reporting period did not operate. The Yosemite service has not yet started, and the board had asked on a couple of occasions let's take a look at some of our special event services and how they are performing. And so you'll see the services that we offered in the community. There were 6 of them between July and December 2017 listed here. So the number of vehicle service hours it took us to serve the event, the number of rides we gave out, and then the overall cost, with the final efficiency being the cost per ride. And you can see we are typically between $3 and $5 per ride, which is really pretty good considering our fixed route services fluctuate anywhere from kind of $13 to $20 per ride. So we're feeling like the value is certainly playing out for our special event services. So that basically concludes the report. During the next report, we'll have a full service period with our new schedules operating out of the transit center, and we hope to see some of these percentages moving up in the next report as we've slim down some of our overall costs and hopefully pick up some new riders and efficiency with the new transit center and service schedules. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Pretty clear report.
Looks pretty
We
clear.
just need to move that percentage up. That's the key.
So I do have a question, because it says on page 3, it talks about under generalized transit services in the second paragraph. It says the contractor is expected to maintain at least 15% combined fare box recovery ratio, and anything above this threshold is considered exceptional. So contractor meeting TCTA?
Contractor means store or transportation.
Store.
It's a goal.
All right. So what does Storer do to help increase ridership?
They don't have full control over that, but there's a lot of factors like the amount of service you provide and frequency of service that are all areas, and cost in terms of fares, they're all under our control. But as far as their part, on-time performance, friendliness, clean vehicles, just a quality of service is their piece of it.
And that's all factored into, somehow into the fare box
Yeah, and that's
ratio
but that's-
because of the great customer service they're providing.
Yes, but that's also why we don't have any penalties in there if they don't meet the 15%, because we control so many major factors in how we get to fare box recovery ratio.
Okay.
I should probably also note, John, you had previously asked for just simple numbers of how many riders we got, so we've got that in here now.
Yeah, real clear.
Yeah.
We know how many people use it and how much it costs us. That was the information that
Good.
I think was important. So, thank you.
And Tyler, one item, it's last page, Polar Express, 775 rides. I was amazed when I saw that number. I didn't think it was that high this year, this year. Never mind, you get it. November and December.
Right. So we did this year, we did have an additional weekend.
Yeah, an extra 2 days.
And so we actually saw kind of a dramatic fluctuation where we had a few Saturdays where ridership was very good and we gave quite a few rides, and then a couple days where ridership was low. But I think the combined figure, looking at I guess 4 weekends overall now as opposed to 3, kind of brought that, so the late November and then the 3 December weekends, which also include a Friday. So you'll notice the vehicle service hours for that event is the largest of the 6 that we served during that period. So it kind of reflects that ability to incrementally get to that number.
So I was wondering if I could get the numbers on a breakdown by weekend or day, whatever you have. We have a meeting later this month with Railtown.
I'll send that to you.
Okay.
Yep.
It'll be an issue, an item, discussion, conversation. All right, and this was for report, correct?
Correct.
I have a question,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Chairman. How is the new transit center doing, and has it reduced the congestion we've had downtown here at all?
I think the center is doing well in terms of a good quality experience for the riders. I was really happy today when it was raining and cold. There was a disabled lady in the heated, air-conditioned space waiting for her next bus, and she was there for maybe 20 or 30 minutes. So in the old times, she would have been waiting outside. So that was really a pleasure to see. I think it's also very convenient for people. I see some of the commute periods where all the buses come together. They get off, and you'll see 40 people all marching back and forth from bus to bus, and then off they go, and there's nobody left there, you know. So it's very functional in that regards. In my observations downtown in Courthouse Park, it has been some reduction in number of people waiting for buses there. We have fewer buses that actually go there now. And I've talked to Rick at the shoe store, and ham and shoes, and he agreed that there's been some reduction, not quite at the level he would like, but him and I kind of agree that as long as there's a courthouse and so many government offices downtown that draw those people in, or for that matter, private sector jobs and employers and whatnot, there's always going to be a need or a lot of demand at that bus stop.
Thank you.
Okay. Looks like item 8. Adoption of the TCTA's 2017-18 mid-year budget with associated budgetary modifications, and a 4/5 vote is required.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to have Laura go over the budget for you.
Good afternoon. We looked at some minor changes that need to be made at mid-year. The first we're going to look at is revenue. We had an increase in our interest earned, and that's specific to Prop 1B funding, California Office of Emergency Service funding, and Public Transit Modernization and Improvement Safety Enhancement Program. We're hoping that those funds, I think we're seeing those funds will be spent down possibly in 18-19, so we'll see the interest go back down. We saw a large increase of 46,891 in our state low carbon transit grant. Those funds will be offset with expense. It's gonna help run the summer Pinecrest Transit service and also the weekend trolley service that was approved on February 14th meeting. State transit assistance funds we saw an increase of 10,934. This year they included some funding for the State of Good Repair program. Fare box, because it was hard to project out because we changed things 4 months into the year, we are kind of leaving it as is. We do have a reduction to the ski bus revenue, and you'll see the expense side of that. And again, our marketing consultant is doing great, and so we saw an increase in her funding. We'd like to increase the bus advertising to about $16,340,000. Expenses on the other side of this, gas looks like we're going to come in as expected. We're going to increase some expenses in the Pinecrest Transit service and the trolley service, decrease ski bus services expense, and overall we have a $40,000 increase in expense and an $80,000 increase in revenue. You'll see I guess to adopt this, it requires a 4/5 vote from the TCTA. Any questions?
So
Yes. Go ahead,
Okay.
John, first.
the net results is about a $40,000
Yes.
gain, not loss?
Correct.
Okay.
On the second page of the mid-year budget, where the expense estimates are,
Yes.
oh, wait a minute, I may have just, no. In the area, the first area to do with salary and benefit reimbursement, are there some numbers missing?
Oh,
Because
What-
there's totals, but,
yes. What happens in that is the salaries, the auditor runs them through our TCTC program, so all the details then
oh,
there, and then the expenses moved over in a lump sum.
okay.
So that's why most of it hits in the one account line. There's a few things that they do separately, like the post-medical retirement, the workers' comp, and unemployment insurance. they do that in a separate entry. But that's why you see it all on one line.
Okay, and then the other question is that the Tuolumne County Visitors Bureau, to do with the trolley service over the weekend, that will come up, that $25,000 will show up in the next
Budget cycle.
Budget cycle.
Yes.
Any other questions? Any public comment? Excuse me.
Thank you.
Excuse me.
Ready for a
Choking up.
motion?
All this money, I'm choking up. I'll entertain a motion.
Move that we adopt the CTA's 2017-18 mid-year budget and associated budgetary modifications.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries 4-0. And any reports here?
Just one on the Celtic Fair. It seemed like we had a great event out there and a lot of riders. So Tyler's he was out there a lot this weekend, and he's gonna give you a report on how it
Got
went.
lucky with the weather.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, this is the first year we've served the Sonora Celtic Fair, and from what I understand, this is the 32nd year that they've had it, and it showed. They were very organized. We met with them ahead of time. They were very obliging as far as understanding what our needs were and getting the buses in and out of the property there. And they did a splendid job of not only advertising the service that we offered, the co-promotions, which we're really pushing now. They hit the nail on the head. We were on the little flyer that they distributed. We were prominently located on their website, and they had everything organized at the front of the fairgrounds there, so passengers knew right where to stand, and it was a real convenient service. I think as a result, we saw service running from the junction. They wanted to include Walmart, which they saw as a good stop, so we did, working with, of course, the Walmart leadership, and then downtown, and then the fairgrounds. And we had a very successful Saturday, Sunday service, even though the fair was Friday as well. They said the bulk of our visitors come. So we ran from 9 to 7 on Saturday, and we gave out over 700 rides, and then from 10 to 6 on Sunday, and over 400 rides. So for the weekend, nearly over 1,100 rides, with a lot of folks. Just the anecdotal feedback from the drivers and the dispatch, and we haven't met with the staff yet from the Sonora Celtic Fair, but by all measurements, it was a huge success. And we'll do a formal report back to you, but since the event went off this last weekend, we wanted to share some of the initial good news that we got. And as you noted, the rain held off, and it was a beautiful event, and we had a lot of fun there as well. So,
John?
Did you do any jousting? I think this is good, and we could possibly spread the word about what they did to the other events that we have to do a better job of marketing it. And I'm thinking one in the South County. I don't think they market it as well on their flyers and all the information that goes out. So maybe we could give them an exercise on how to do it right.
well, I think we do have a great model now, and it certainly helps if you can say, hey, here's what these guys did, and here's what the ridership ended up being. And so we will certainly be persuasive with some of these other event organizers.
Only thing
I was down there, so I could see that it was very well organized there at the gate when the buses came in. And by the way, John, there was a female jouster.
Yeah, it did very well.
Yeah.
I seen her picture.
Boy, that,
Mess with her.
yeah, and that's watching them hit each other and fall on the ground. Man, hurts to even watch. But it was a very well-attended event.
Yeah.
And that should help the fairgrounds in promoting their facilities for future events, because there are a lot of events that look at the fairgrounds. There's not enough parking, for the event, so they cancel or they don't arrange for an event to be there. This is a good example of we can help alleviate the lack of parking near the facility with the buses, so that's great.
Yeah, that's a very good point. If you just figured on that day where we had 700 riders, if you had 2 people per car, that's 350 cars you don't have to park in the neighborhood. And
And
Yeah.
where are you going to park them?
Yeah.
yeah,
The
up
people
into
may
the
not even
neighborhoods.
go just
Yeah.
because.
Well, you
no
may
place
not
to
go,
park.
and then you think about some of the pedestrian incidents we've had down there, and it's hundreds of people not crossing the state highway as well. There's just a lot of benefits to this that justify the public expenditure.
One thing that I talked to one of the event people as I was leaving, and the one of the issues that they have is the vendors coming in and their parking and being able to load and unload. And I don't know what the answer is to making it better for them, but it might be worth a conversation for next year, when they start talking about this, is what other options might be available to provide maybe transit service from a different area for the vendors to come in and offload all of their stuff and then come back on Sunday. And I don't know, there could be something that could be put together that's creative.
Yeah, we'll make sure we talk with them about it.
Duke, this is under reports, just so you're aware of that.
Yeah. I just want to report that it was a great event, but that when the Celtic Fair got out and that traffic came from the Celtic Fair and joined up with the traffic coming down Highway 108 from the snow play, it was backed up clear to the Monoway interchange. And unfortunately, I made the mistake of going out at that time period. And the only thing that saved me is I took Campo Seco to get home to Jamestown. This traffic coming from the snow play now is really backing up on a Sunday afternoon.
Welcome to Tuolumne County.
But we love all those tourists.
Yeah, don't complain.
Nice report, good job. All right, we will adjourn the Tuolumne County Transit Agency meeting. All right, we'll call the Tuolumne County Transportation Council meeting to order. This would be the opportunity for oral communication to allow anyone wishing to speak on any item not on the printed agenda. All right, seeing none, we'll move to the consent calendar. Item 2, approval of the February 14, 2018 meeting minutes.
I have one small correction. On page 3, wait a minute. Yeah, page 3, under item number 8, it's State Road 49, 108, not 109.
Where's it at? Oh, I see it.
Okay.
Okay. So with that change, any public comment? I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Regular agenda item 3. Review and comment on the Tuolumne County Transportation Council draft overall work program for fiscal year 18-19.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, as I'm sure all of you will recall, the overall work program is a document that we adopt every year, and we submit it to Caltrans for review and comment as a draft, and they will review it for consistency with state programs and how we're planning on expending the funds. One of the key elements of this document is to show all the different grants and funding that we get, and we match it up with work activities of the TCTC or our consultants or other subrecipient agencies like the city and the county. And they look for compliance issues with variety of different programs. And so we have submitted that draft, and we're presenting it here for you tonight. We should hear back from Caltrans usually by the end of April, and then we'll bring it back for final approval in May or so. As you might recall, at your January meeting, we did look at, February meeting, we didn't have a January meeting. We did look at a list of work activities. It's kind of that first shot you got to tell us if we're working on the things that you see as high priorities. And from that discussion, I would highlight a couple items. First off is the State Route 49 108 widening project. Is specifically geared towards what Duke was just talking about, the congestion that we're seeing building up in the Jamestown corridor. This project, this effort in the work program is to begin the project initiation documents for that, with the hope that it sometime down the line, after completion of environmental and right-of-way, that we'll have a constructed widening project down there with it's a complete street design with walkways and transit stops and bike lanes and whatnot through the Jamestown corridor. That project's probably on a 10-year time frame. Secondly, also noteworthy is the stage 1 of the north-south connector project. Again, we're looking at initiating that project, moving the ball forward from where the county left it after doing some alignment reviews back in 2009, I believe it was, or maybe it was 2006. And then finally, that also noteworthy is we're going to continue our work on setting up policies and procedures in regards to CEQA reform. I think we've talked about a few different times how the state is, in the CEQA, is shifting from using level of service to determine a project's impact on the road system to looking at vehicle miles traveled. This is kind of a new frontier that has Duke and I very concerned about how it plays in rural areas or suburban areas for that matter. We think it's clear it's a benefit to urban areas. For instance, if you are in Oakland or San Jose downtown, you want to build a 30-story high-rise for workers and you're near a light rail or BART, you can previously you would have been stuck with your level of service F on the roadway and you can't change it because it's a built-out environment. Now you're simply looking at is your vehicle miles traveled average per person or per dwelling less than what it would be than the average of the whole county. So are you reducing overall vehicle miles traveled? It's a complex thing, plays well in urban areas. It's going to be tough in our rural environment. This is going to be something that we're going to be very collaborative with our partners at the city and county and Caltrans in developing policies and procedures. But we've got funding in this year's work program to start that effort. We'll probably be sending out a task order for Wood Rogers to kind of assess our model and the information we can get out of that model, and that'll lead towards a project in next year's work program. So those are the three main highlights for our work program next year, other than just the regular stuff we do on a day-to-day basis. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I encourage you to just review and comment the draft work program.
Darren, I was looking, but I couldn't find it. I may have flown right by it. Excess lands that we're trying to deal with or looking for some report, is that in the work program?
Yeah.
So we don't lose track of it?
I believe it is.
Yeah,
Do you
there
remember
is.
Let me look. I'll take my cheat sheet over here. It's probably under the state highway program, which is work element 14.
I saw something.
Page 14?
Work element 14.
57.
Page
Oh, thank you.
You see it there?
There's a statement about the,
Right-of-way protection ongoing? Page 58. East Sonora bypass right-of-way sales, is that it?
yeah, that's what I read.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
On the,
And just if I may, I did hear from Caltrans, they're hoping to close that process by 2020.
20 what?
2020, be done with selling off all the property, is what I was heard.
Do we have any idea where they're at currently? All right, we'll
I can give you a detailed update, but I would say overall, they're past the 50% mark.
Okay. You have to come up to the mic.
As you know, they had a recent auction for the excess lands. They sold, they basically put up 8, they advertised 9, but those were the parcels that we had specifically requested that they prioritize because of their commercial value. They still have a few more of these high-value commercial ones to get to, but in terms of the total number of parcels available, keep in mind, some of these are merged together, like they'll have 3 or 4 parcels together to make one meaningful parcel.
Right.
They, I would say that they were maybe at the point where they got about 20% that they've resolved, and then a lot of the parcels, they've made determinations that they're going to use parcels, so they're never going to go up for sale. But some of these mitigation parcels, Darren and I have been contesting or asking for clarity with the Caltrans staff about when did this become unavailable and things like that. So we're still working, it's a work in progress, but I can tell you this, that their staff have been asking questions about various parcels, like, okay, what's the zoning on this? Where's the water? What's road access like? Which leads me to believe that they're getting ready for the next round of auctions to put them out there. People come see me all the time asking, who do I contact? Where do I find out about these parcels? So there's a lot of public interest.
Any chance we can get a report on a future agenda?
on which ones were sold?
Yeah, we can do that.
Yeah, like an update.
Sure.
On the rail grant, it says here that we're looking at the fall of 2018 to know whether it was successful. Is there anything that we know that's positive about this, or is it just wait until 2000?
Actually, I have a few things to report. I was going to do it under reports, but I can certainly do it now. I spoke with Paul Gruber. He's the representative for Sierra Railroad that we worked very closely with in getting the grant submitted. And Paul communicated to me that Mike Hart had went out to Washington to meet with folks at the Federal Railroad Administration, and he was pitching them on his waste to gasification process that he has. It's a process where they take just garbage waste and convert it to a fuel, liquid fuel. And so he was encouraged to put together a larger, like $100 million grant under the Trump infrastructure plan to develop 2 or 3 of these sites around California. In that conversation, he also talked about this grant and perhaps putting a gasification on it. It was noted that the size of the grant request that we have is very large for the overall amount of money available in that pot of funds for rural areas. And Paul and I talked about the need to probably put a letter going forward about phasing that project, because it was, even though it was a large grant, it was over a 5 or 6 year period. So he's putting together some parameters on a smaller project that could be approved that would be part of an overall larger project that they would submit other phases at a later date. His first feelings were that the greatest need is in Stanislaus County, and I reminded him that historically we've always tried to strike a balance between projects in Stanislaus and Tuolumne County, understanding that the larger share might go to Stanislaus because the greater needs are there. And having had some conversation with board members about the needs on improving crossings and whatnot at Hospital Road, him and I are beginning to talk about going after some PUC, I think it's Section 130 program funds for some of the crossings on Hospital Road. He could do some track improvements with this federal grant, and then maybe I could get some RSTP funds to improve the pavement. So you'd have an overall improved section through there. So that's kind of what we're talking about, and I may be sending out a letter or bring it back depending on the timing in the next month.
Okay.
I have a question and a comment, and two comments. First of all, on page 19 of 62, I have a question about the accident record management system.
Yes.
Because it states here that the system is utilized to map high accident locations on State Route 108. Is the management system only for 108, or will it be broadened to include possibly Highway 49?
Actually, it's all the state highways
All of them.
in the county, although I think we might have a donut in the city, whole, I should say. And let me clarify that. It's all county roads, and then the state highways, but any accident report done by the city of Sonora,
You told me this before.
it does not go into our system. And I think you and I and perhaps other board members, city council members have had discussions about that have led to some discussions with Tim Miller. And it looks like the city's ready to begin a process of using the GIS to do accident recordation in the city. And it's on me to kind of coordinate that effort. So that's a good point, and I will make sure that when you see a final, that it puts together a strategy to move the ball forward in that regards.
Okay. Now that you said that, I remember you telling me that before, and I've had a couple conversations about Highway 49. So, on page 29 of 62, under the active transportation, to do with the Dragoon Gulch Trail, I'm sure that in the future, when you update this, you'll add in the first extension of the new extension. And maybe by then, we'll have the other extension done. But anyway, and my last comment is, this is really informative. And I probably have read it before, but it makes, now that I've been here for a little while, it
Starting
makes
to
a
make
whole
sense.
lot more sense. So it's very informative, so
Thank you.
very well done.
It's one of those things that all the staff work on.
It's like the Bible.
Different staff have different pieces of it, and it all comes together in Laura's shop.
Anyway, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other comment? Questions? Any public comment? All right, seeing none. This is just
Information item.
for discussion. Okay. Item 4, presentation of the TCTC 17-18 mid-year budget review.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. On this, we have reviewed all of the revenues for the TCTC's budget, and generally, the revenues are all coming in as expected. The expenses are also coming in more or less as expected. There's some minor deviations that we feel are not necessary to address at this point in time. We think the budget is acceptable as is, and we expect to have plenty of fund balance at the end of the year, as we normally do. And therefore, we're not recommending any adjustments to the budget at this point in time. We'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Okay. Any questions from?
It's working.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Any public comment? All right. And no action on our part at this
That's
juncture?
correct.
Okay. Item 5. Let me read this slowly.
Because it's long.
Yes. Adopt Resolution 579-18, rescinding $25,000 in bicycle, pedestrian, local transportation fund reserves from the City of Sonora's crosswalk improvements of Restano, Stewart, Mona Way intersection project, allocating $15,000 to the extension of Dragoon Gulch Trail connection to Racetrack Road, and reimbursing the City of Sonora $10,734 for costs associated with the Sonora Park and Ride project closure.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, this is kind of a little complicated process. I'll try and explain. It's part of what we do in managing and protecting funds at the same time. But to tell the story, I have to kind of go back a little bit. And as you might recall, we provided both the City of Sonora and Tuolumne County, we programmed projects for park and rides, one up in Tuolumne, one in the City of Sonora. And the city has been unable to secure the park and ride project as they had proposed it. Unfortunately, they had spent about $10,734 on moving the, getting the project environmentally cleared and whatnot. So that project was not going forward. Meanwhile, and they're about ready to lose those funds, I might add. Meanwhile, the county has moved forward with their park and ride in Tuolumne, and unfortunately, when they put out to bid, it was about $88,000 over their budgeted amount. So, looking at these two problems emerging at the same time, the city, the county, and TCTC got together and talked about it, and the city agreed to close out their Sonora Park and Ride project and free up the $88,000 to the county so that they could get their project out to construction, which they've actually awarded the construction at this point, and they're waiting for the remainder of funds. And the remaining amount of funds that was in the Sonora Park and Ride has been moved over to the Sonora Transit bus stop project at Washington Church 49 Street, which is an active project that the city currently has a RFP out on the street trying to find an engineer to design the project. So those are some of the moving parts that include actions that we've already taken prior. What this item does is it helps us begin to pay back that $10,700 that the city spent on the Sonora Park and Ride, which Caltrans is demanding, and frankly the feds are demanding, and Caltrans is kind of the enforcer, so to speak, that if you didn't deliver your project and it didn't stop for some for a certain criteria, you have to pay the money back. And so in talking again with the city and Rochelle and Tim, they identified the Restano Way project as a project that was not going to be moving forward, that was holding $25,000 in funds from the TCTC. And they requested that the project be rescinded and that the funds from that be used to pay back the park and ride funding back to the state. When staff looked at that, we weren't comfortable with that particular use of funds, so we'd rather just use that out of fund balance. So what I'm proposing, what we have here, is that we rescind the project, bringing $25,000 back into the TCTC's reserve funding, and reallocate $10,734 from our fund balance, which we think is an acceptable use of those funds. And then so there's no net loss to the city reallocate 15,000 to the extension of Dragon Gulch Trail. Specifically, we're hoping that it'll be the section that goes up to Racetrack Road. I know I've spoken to Sherry Brennan. That's a high priority project to provide access to the neighborhoods along Racetrack Road. And then likewise, it's important to us in that it functions in many ways like a safe route to school for the kids that live up in the Racetrack neighborhood. Instead of going down that very kind of high-speed, narrow section of Racetrack Road, that they'd be able to take a much safer route to school through the Dragon Gulch over to Alpine Lane and then on to school to Snell Street. So that's what's proposed here. I hope that through all that, I've made some sense and it's clear in what I'm asking the council to do, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Can you clarify?
Just a question, what happens if the city decides to resurrect the park and ride program? In other words, if they actually find a piece of property that they can use for a park and ride, is this 10,000 lost forever, or can what that 10,000 was spent on, can it be used for?
I think we just start from scratch, at that point and see what funding is available to help them deliver the project. Right now, we're not eligible for CMAQ funding anymore, which is probably, it's the fund that's best for that. We've heard that we may come back into the CMAQ program in the near future, but with a new administration, who knows?
The original grant for the Park and Ride project was over $200,000,
Yes.
was it not?
Yes.
And I just want to clarify, so the 25,000, you're recommending 25,000 go back to the city out of that 250?
No, the
How does it work?
200,000 is already, we've already taken action on that.
Okay, that's already
to
gone back
rescind that
to
project.
Caltrans.
No. Some of it went to the county, about 88,000 to the county's
Okay.
park and ride, and the rest went to the city's transit stop project at
Okay.
Washington Stockton.
All right.
And again, it's a good example of cooperation between the city and the county working together to get things done.
Well, especially since the county already has a project that they can move forward on, and the city did
Yeah,
not
without
have a
the city's help,
project
they wouldn't have been able to move
that
forward.
they could move forward on for various reasons.
And you might get Dragoon Gulch done.
And, right, and connect over there on Jamestown Road, so,
Well, it's unfortunate that the
Yeah.
park and ride didn't
Yeah.
work out, because that was, or it looked pretty good to begin with. And
Yeah.
So I think this is a wise way to disperse these funds.
Yeah, thank you. And for whatever it's worth, the connection up to Racetrack Road, previously this county had partnered with the city on a improvement project on Racetrack Road that would repave the road and put shoulders in and some sidewalks up there and storm drain improvements. I'm encouraging the county to consider combining some of their SB1 funds with an ATP grant project to go after that project one more time. The cycle 4 of the active transportation program call for projects is expected probably in May with a June, July deadline to get a grant application. So hopefully they'll move forward with that and make this little investment in the connection up to Racetrack Road that much better.
All right. Any public comment? Seeing none, I'll bring it back for motion.
I'll move to adopt Resolution 579-18 as stated by staff.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. Reports.
Just a couple. I did mention on the OWP that we will be submitting a grant application for rural planning assistance funds to address CEQA reform and the VMT changes there. So we're going to be working on that here in the next few months, or month, I should say, actually. Alex Padilla is putting together a scope of work for that, and he's doing a great job in that regards. And then I want to mention a couple upcoming meetings. I'll be on the 28th, I'll be down at Caltrans helping with the interviews for the replacement Carl Baker. On the 22nd, I will be down at the district talking with some of their traffic operations and safety folks about the proposed safety improvements on Washington Street 49. And then on the 20th, I will also be down at Caltrans for a constructability review for the Yosemite Junction high T design. It's at a 95% design level at this point. So those are things are moving along. I already mentioned the railroad. There's one other thing I want to mention that's important. We submitted our regional transportation improvement program to the state, proposing funding for Peaceful Oak Interchange in fiscal year 19 next year. And then also the Mono Way operational safety project to be completed or constructed in 2022. Unfortunately, statewide, they have more funding requests in the years of the STIP than funding available. And to reconcile that, the first thing they did is they looked at projects that had cost increases, and both of our projects had cost increases. Those projects got moved back a year. And so we're kind of got lumped into that bushel of projects that got moved back a year because we had cost increases. With SB1, there's so many new projects going out right now that construction costs are just escalating very, very quickly. I did explain to them that our project is ready to go, and she said, well, if it's ready to go, let us know. And I said, well, we've been ready to go for 18 months, and we lost our permits waiting for funding. And she was apologetic for that. She said that she'll look for ways to move the project sooner rather than later, but from a funding standpoint, this is how the program is going to have to work. If something drops out, maybe we can jump in there and get our funds a little
The
earlier.
cost is just going to keep
Yeah.
going up
Yeah.
as we're sitting here waiting.
Yeah.
They haven't solved anything.
And the
Yes.
permits expire again.
I did talk with our engineers. The permits are good to go through that fiscal year 2020. It's unfortunate, but it's one of the reasons I feel that we need a little more presence in Sacramento right now to make sure that they understand what Tuolumne County's needs are, and that we are pushing those things very hard on a regular basis up there.
I believe that if those ramps are put in, that we might have some movement on some subdivision property in
Yeah.
that area. It really needs to be done to make a smooth transition from in and out of that highway.
Oops, sorry, I couldn't hear you.
You want me to repeat that, huh?
Word for word.
I just think that we would have some movement on the subdivision in that area if those ramps were installed. It could be what is part of the delay. I don't know that for sure, but it would seem logical.
I'm developing a little bit of a relationship with one of the commissioners up there, Paul Van Konenberg. Let me see if I can reach out to him and see if there's any way that he can help us out in that regards, or champion our project in some way.
Okay. Any other reports?
That's it for my reports. Sorry for ending on bad news.
Yeah, thank you. Betty?
Thank you. I have just a few quick ones. First of all, Caltrans has a new director, Lori Berman. She replaced Malcolm Dougherty. He went to the Michael Baker International Company, and he's the national practice lead. So just FYI, we have a female director. The ATP Cycle 4 call for projects is coming up that Darren mentioned. And We're circulating TCTC's OWP for review and comment in our district and are forwarding it. Well, it's already been forwarded to headquarters for review. And last time, there was a question about the congested corridor program, if it would be extended past 2020. And I looked at the draft guidelines, and it said that CTC their intent is to program 3 years of funding in the subsequent cycles, 2020, 2022, et cetera, by November 1st of the even-numbered years, with 2 years of programming capacity added to the program. The last year of the cycle will be carried to the following cycle, so it will be continued after 2020. That's the intent. That's all.
Thank you.
Duke York, Deputy Director in charge of Engineering and Roads Division. Couple of things. Darren mentioned the Yosemite Junction. We'll probably have Gadiel attend that as well. One of the other projects that we have that we'll be meeting on April 16th, Evergreen Road, which was a federal lands access program, I think it's about $18 million project. They're at 70% plans, and we'll be reviewing those on April 16th. I do want to mention one thing that Darren, a lot of people in this body, attended a memorial service for one of your former members on this body here, and that's Ron Stern. It was a very great event and great turnout, so just want to slip that in there. Today, I went to a meeting with the Caltrans staff, wherein every year we get together with other agencies and share all the projects that we have in the upcoming construction year. We talk about, they talk about what their projects are, you know, so that we can coordinate and make sure that we're not tearing up a piece of road that they're going to need for a detour when they're doing their projects. So I do have a summary of that, which I'll get to Darren at the end of the meeting, but I thought I'd mention a couple of the key projects here. One of the biggest projects coming is a $27 million hot mix asphalt project that's going to go all the way from just outside Oakdale to Moccasin. Huge project. It's 135 working days, and there are two projects that are going to involve tree pruning on various roads in the county. I think the total on that one is about $12 million, and this to deal with the bug trees on multiple highways throughout the county, and we're going to continue to see those as part of the projects. Some of the other projects that are of interest to this body, one that is on Highway 49 in two parts, one north of Pesci to the Calaveras County line, and another project on Highway 49 from the Mariposa County line to where it hits Highway 120 on Highway 49. Some other projects that are of particular interest, especially in light of recent accidents that occurred, is down there by some people call it the Rock Shop, other people the Cider House. They have a project where they're going to be installing high friction surfaces there. And there were two rather tragic accidents down there over the weekend, I believe. So, and this project's been in the works for some time. Also, a couple other minor pavement projects, striping and different things. Anyhow, a total of 17 projects and a breakdown. We also share information regarding special events that might affect some of these various projects. And I have a summary of each project right here in this packet.
You Duke, will you send me one, when you get it all in one page, would you send me some?
Yeah, the one I gave, will be giving to Darren.
All right.
We'll have it all.
Thank you.
The county, as part of the information that we share with Caltrans, the cities there as well, I might add, we present information about the various projects that we have going in the county. Currently, we have a total of 66 projects that are ongoing right now. Of those projects, I broke them into 6 individual categories. We have bridges. We have about 14 ongoing bridges, and there are 3 that are going to be we're going to be doing in 2018. The road work projects, we have a total of 6, and 2 of them will be going on in 2018. The intersection improvement projects, we have 4, and we either have 1 or 2, depending on whether we can get PG&E to follow through on utility work up there at the Pedro Y. But the other big one is of course the Fifth Avenue project. So we have a variety of miscellaneous projects that are all over the board: the guardrails, signage. Different projects, some of them are flap projects, just a whole variety of projects. Of those miscellaneous projects, we have 6 of them that are going to be worked on in 2018.
Marsh's Flat Road, one of them?
That's in another category. I'll tell you about that. We're coming to it. Surface treatments, we have 3 projects. 2 of them will be starting in 2018. The biggest one being Jacksonville Road, and this is part of that detour route. The money we got from the detour route, combined with other sources of money, we're going to rebuild Jacksonville Road, Algerine Road, Saco, and some other treatments along the way. So that's a really good project. Tuolumne Road is another one that we're going to be doing as part of those surface treatments. Now to storm damage. We're still dealing with storm damage. There are a total of 24 projects, 12 that we've already completed. We're going to do a total of 8 more in 2018. But the big projects, Marsh's Flat included, Italian Bar, Buchanan, and I think Little Fuller is the other one. We're still waiting for the FEMA dollars to come through. Even though it was originally supposed to be covered, they just have, that funding process is clunky. It's
That's the word of the day.
That's the word of the day, yeah. In any case, Marsh's Flat, I think, is about a $4 million, no, Italian Bar is the $4 million fix, and Marsh's Flat is the $2 million fix.
I think Marsh's Flat, the newest email and pictures from those Fords on this rain yesterday, that's where that lady a few years ago went off into the creek, and
Yeah.
and it's concerning. It's the only way out. I mean, I know you guys are working hard at it. I'm just
Yeah.
keep bringing it up.
I get calls out there when it's the second, they call it Second Creek,
Right.
and we went to check to see if debris was partially causing the problem, but yes, Mrs. Larson passed away at that creek, and that was quite a while back, John.
I know, got a long memory. I've been here a long time.
So anyhow, that's kind of a summary, and that's the part of the report that we provided for the projects in 2018.
Thank you.
Thank you, Duke. Any other reports? Meeting adjourned. Thank you very much.